Hey, welcome back to Edinburgh, my newly decorated room. And today I'm just going to talk a little bit about backgrounds and wallpapers and colour matching and stuff like that. So even on this slide here, what you're going to see is I've actually started to do a little bit of colour matching, and I do that all the time. So I just use a little eyedropper to grab a colour. And so, for instance, in this particular case, I've taken the text there where it says wallpaper, etc. And I've gone to the wallpaper and I've chosen the lightest colour in the wallpaper and matched my text with the wallpaper. So I think your background is just as important as the foreground, especially when you're playing about a green screen. But I'm kind of quite happy with this as a background for a scene, because you would have wallpaper in your house. This one is actually an AI generated streamer wallpaper. So I've got cameras and headphones and microphones and stuff like that going on in the background. I'll show you another one in a minute. But what I thought was entertaining was that today I was watching Katie on a stream, and it was from her house, and she'd got really, it's very similar, mushroom wallpaper in the background with mushrooms all over it. And I thought, oh, that's remarkably what I've done. Maybe I should go generate some mushroom wallpaper. But anyway, wallpaper scene number one, with me standing out quite a lot against that kind of pattern background. So I'm very much solid black and the background is not. Let's have a look at another example. So again, I've done the colour matching thing, so I've matched the text with what's on the wallpaper, etc. But this is all a bit too many colours and a bit too rich and busy for me. So what do you do if you don't like that and you want to calm it down a little bit or change the colour scheme? Well, there's quite a lot you can do in Ecamm, so let's look at the next scene. So this is a little bit more pleasant. I've switched myself to black and white for an even greater contrast. But what I have done is I have gone and dropped a box over the top of the wallpaper. So in this particular case, it was just a purple square or rectangle that I created in Keynote, and used in Keynote the feature that allows you to gradient blur the center of something. So if you look carefully, there's a sort of, I'm disappearing off my screen here, but there is a bit of a lighter color in the center behind me. So what I have done is I've dropped that over the top of my wallpaper, and then I've gone through the different blend options that you can use for that, because it's covering the whole screen, albeit it's a few levels back, so it's sitting behind me and my text and a little chap, etc. But it's covering the wallpaper, and I've gone through the different blend modes just to see what they look like, because that will gently blend together the purple color and what's in the background and make it less sort of bright and breezy. So that I think works quite well. Something else you might want to try. So exactly the same background here, but me in the foreground here in the circle is a standard Ecamm thing now in 4.1. So how have I done it? I'm still on green screen transparent. So my camera's set on green screen transparent. But what you can now do is that if you go to the little cog next to your camera, so confusingly not in the camera effects, but if you go to the little cog next to your camera, what you're going to find is that there is an option to add in a shadow. So I'm just going to uncheck my shadow. So that's me with no shadow. And that's me with a shadow, and you can put a blur on that shadow or remove the blur and change the angle around as well, and also change the color around. So if I wanted to come here and I wanted to use the color picker again and change my color, then I can sort of blend into the background even more if that's what I wanted to do. Or alternatively, I suppose, if I chose a different color from the little chap over here, I could do something like that, which is pretty horrible. But you can then reduce the opacity of that as well, so that it doesn't look quite so bad, and I get some of the wallpaper in the background. So all of those are just standard things that you can now do with 4.1. So just to repeat, you go to the little cog next to your camera, and then choose to add in a shadow and then change the colour in the background of the shadow, and that gives you this nice effect, which I think can work really, really well in some sort of keynote type presentations where you've got your slides on the screen and you want to appear fairly small in the corner. It works with all the different shapes as well, so if you want to do it in a squircle or a square or whatever, it will put that square or squircle shadow behind you also. So bear in mind, you probably don't want to do that with the wide option or something like that, because you're just going to get a big strip across the screen, not going to look so hot. But there we go, that's a feature which isn't particularly obvious, but one that I do find that I use quite often when I'm playing about with Ecamm. Other things that I would put in the background, not normally solid colours unless it's behind me like this, which is, I think, all right actually. But let's have a look at another couple of backgrounds. So I've just used the pop-up mini-me here, and I quite like to have a background that's got some depth of field as well. So if I'm not doing the wallpaper thing, then I'm looking for a background that's got depth of field. Probably not a static office. You're going to find out that I do a lot of non-static offices when you jump on the rest of the YouTube stuff, where there's a whole thing on creating backgrounds using AI and stuff like that. Totally different. But for me, even something simple like this has got a good depth of field to it. And for that reason, the green screen kind of helps you look a little bit more real. So you're standing there, okay, you can't possibly stand on the edge of the Grand Canyon like that, but well, I suppose you could. But the point really is that it's something a little bit different in the background rather than just a square box, which I'm kind of bored of square boxes. So what if you want to amp that one up a little bit? Well, you could go as far as creating a second shadow of yourself in the background and then adding in some motion as well in the background. So I've added in some motion in the background and used some opacity there to take the canyon image, reduce the opacity so that my motion backgrounds are showing through. The motion backgrounds are in the very bottom of the scene, and there will be a whole series on how to create motion backgrounds in Ecamm and how they work. I guess I'm probably going to have to do a little show on how to create the mini-me popping up as well, so I will do that at some point. But really this is to demonstrate what things look like with a bit of motion in the background. I don't think you'd use a secondary shadow if you just got a head and shoulder shot like I've got at the moment. That wouldn't work so well. But this, for me, a little bit of motion in the background, I think really brings things to life. I put up my buy me a coffee thing. I still haven't really got used to putting that up, and most videos I seem to forget. But if you would like to buy me a coffee or a cup of tea, in my case, I have one right here. I'm glad I haven't got a green mug. That would be very kind of you, and would encourage me to just keep going on and producing this stuff. I hope that's been of value and of interest. I guess I'm going to try and do one more recording before the day's out, and we're heading towards the weekend, and we're certainly heading towards the end of this particular video. So see you later. Cheerio from Edinburgh.